Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Canadian Law Tutor. Today, Canadian Law Tutor is in conversation with Colby Sharma and, of course, about his book, The Curveball. So we have a lawyer, a law student, and a philosopher who is teaching us a lot about life and law. Let's hear from Colby. Welcome, Colby. Welcome to Canadian Law Tutor. We are so excited to have you. I am so excited to have you on my platform, and I've been, I know you from so many years, and it's so wonderful to see your career growth and seeing you going so far in life. And I wish you good luck. And I'm so thrilled to read your book. And I'm excited to share my experience and let people learn from you about life and law.
Girl, thank you so much for those kind words. It's a true pleasure to be here and joining with Canadian Law Tutor. I'm excited to do this.
I remember our first conversation was through Facebook Messenger. You bumped into me during your NCA process for some random questions about the law exams, and here we are. That's how journey started, and I'm so excited to have you over here. So tell me about yourself, how you've been doing, and your book is an amazing inspiration for everybody. I just have one word, which is bigger than anything else in life, which is grit. How you put up with such a profound resilience with everything. That's amazing. And how you narrate that resilience to everyone and inspire them to be resilient in life. That is the very, very, exciting part of your book. And of course, I think it's somewhere a part of you as well.
Thank you. No, that is the biggest thing that I want people to take away from the curveball, which is the challenges. And when we see winning at the game of life, we need to break it down from a series of kind of first principles. We start one base at a time and move incrementally throughout the challenge. And that's something that, in this licensing process that, I've seen myself, but so many people are going through is we're caught up in competition. We're caught up with egoic success metrics though. And what we need to be focused on is what is my journey, what is my story, and how am I going to be the best version of myself that I can be, regardless of what the results are, regardless of whether I get the CQ and I get an A on constitutional law or anything like that. So that's kind of the first thing we need to be mindful of. In terms of where I've gotten in my own journey and what that grit looked for me, well, I started writing the book because I was drawn from a personal journey for adversity well before law school. So I had a learning disability as a teenager that I overcame to graduate from law school.
That's amazing. Bravo. That's really wonderful. It takes a lot of courage to, go out and speak about that and be able to inspire people like, hey, you know what? I bumped.
Yes.
I fell, but we can rise again.
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, I believe it was Marshall McLuhan who says, what's most personal is also what's most universal. What's most personal is also what's most universal. So I went through something, countless others are going through it right now. I mean, learning disabilities are on the rise. Mental health is on the rise. Unfortunately, substance use is also on the rise as well in this deep time of the pandemic. So there's so many things that, not only in my life, but in people's lives that they're going through. And dealing with the curveball of a pandemic, we really need to have all of those lessons intact and with us and keep moving forward if we're going to win at the game of life and embark on whatever success we choose to do.
Wonderful. That's very inspiring for everyone who is communicating us through my channel so that they can, I believe in spreading the goodness, and diplomacy of knowledge was the basic criteria for my channel to start in the first place so that we can share the wisdom. And you bring more wisdom to our channel. That's wonderful. So, so talking about the law, specifically about the demands of, doing studies in law and learning about the new field. It's law has its own vocabulary, law has its own lifestyle, the law has its own demand as a career, right? So it's everything differently. You start you when you start your law school, I always believe that you somehow start from the kindergarten, because whatever you have learned is unlearning.
Yeah.
So how did you what was the basic principle which kept you going, and how did you, because day to day there is so much demand, there is so much things to be done in life, so how would you do that? How did you do that?
Well, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not licensed. I'm not called, so I'm a law graduate. In terms of,
So my
you know,
question is regarding your graduation from the law. Like, whatever we learn in law school, we
yeah,
have to kind of unlearn for the licensing process.
yeah, I think the license process really teaches you what kind of person and what kind of lawyer you truly wish to be, because law school is all theoretical. It was great knowledge, and I loved law from the intellectual angle. But I think once you're in the process and you're faced with these challenges from the NCA and their specifications, and you have the British standard, you have to convert all of that. There's so many pieces that we have to be mindful of and that we have to navigate by, and it becomes easy to lose our cool. And Gul and your audience, I want to stress on that, if we don't know how to manage our responses, which I share as the second, Spooky's rule in the book, control your pitches, choose your pitches, it's going to become harder in practice since we're faced with a managing partner, or we're faced with a client demand at 2 a.m. in the morning. So we need to be mindful of how can we choose the best response that fits the situation. So what I'd like to advocate for is, and I share in the book, we can only choose one response at a certain time. We can't feel scarcity and gratitude and great and abundance. We can't choose to be happy and sad. So there's a great piece from the literature by Dr. Leslie Becker Phelps, PhD, who says, what is the origin of the response you're feeling in that moment? Where does it come from? Because as we know, what's most hysterical is what's also been historical. So if we're faced with stress, if we're filled with overburden of expectation, it's okay to detach ourselves, calm ourselves, maybe do some meditation, maybe, work on some mindfulness techniques, CBT as well. But what is the origin and where did it come from in our background? And that's one thing we need to be looking at when we're dealing with high stress and high pressure situations.
Right. No, that's wonderful. So the takeaway from your words is basically, I think the philosophy of acceptance and philosophy of stillness is the first key to success in all the situations. And then your book deals with more hand-on techniques and inspiration narrated in a story where our audiences can definitely learn. And I would highly recommend it. Is good for young adults, teens, and of course professionals like me. Even if you are celebrating 30 years of your career, you were a CEO, you should read Colby's book, and we will look forward to learn from other people's experience how it inspired them. Totally. My takeaway was that's where I started, in the beginning of our conversation. That is what I believe was the biggest takeaway for me, is like how to keep, ourselves rolling in the things. Yeah.
You come to the first lesson, and first and second lesson are kind of intertwined as well, because adversity loves your ego. When we're faced with a challenge and we're faced with a difficult situation, adversity wants you to feel small. It wants you to feel that, I didn't pass an exam, I'm not going to get the career I want, I'm not going to live the life that I want. And so many of us, we want to dream of senior partner, and we want to work in the big firm, and we want all those trappings. But adversity loves your ego, because when we take adversity and we take the ego, so this comes from Sigmund Freud, there's a tension between the heroic self and the egoic self. And we can proceed by ego reduction by moving through it one base at a time, understanding that, only by taking the first step is how I'm ever going to get started. And then the ego can start to dissipate as time goes on. And we see it in the book where he begins and where he ends the trajectory in the story.
And what would be your suggestion on managing the ego enough to keep your dreams big?
Well, we want to keep our dreams big, but we want to strip away perfection. So when we ego and the perfection, they're kind of siblings, if you will. You want to strip away perfection, but instead embrace inner reflection. We want to keep doing, the good inner work, journaling about, how I want to see myself as a lawyer. As in the professional responsibility, one of the cardinal rules is a lawyer has a duty to the public interest as well. So if we're mindful of that, and we're mindful of, I'm not in this position not only to serve my clients with the scope of the retainer, but even transcending that, then we can actually accentuate ego dissipation.
That's a wonderful way to put it. I really like the way you are, inspiring everyone out there via this platform. One really nice. Thank you very much.
I try. Thank you. Thank you.
So where do you see, what is your target audience in your book? Where do you want people to definitely read this thing? Where would you like to, people to definitely read this book and get inspired? And, how would you recommend it to the parents? And because you're young and you have not been, it's been not so long that you were teen. So if I'm a mom, so how would you recommend me as a mom? Like, why should I buy this book?
So for
my son,
for the parents specifically, if you want your child to become the best version of themselves they can be, cope with and thrive with their own self-esteem, their own image of themselves, you should definitely read this book. If you want to succeed in changing times of the curveballs, and if you want to withstand any challenge, internal or external, you need to read this book. If you are a licensee, and if you're in the process, and if you're a new call, and if you're starting your career, you need to read this book, because this is a book filled with timeless lessons for a timely moment in our world today. It's a world still being made anew as we come out of the pandemic and we go into the new world beyond. So this is a book for the times. This is a book that people can read in whatever stage they are, wherever they're going, wherever they've come from. That's gonna, it's one thing to really help a lot of people.
I remember my English teacher used to say, take life as it comes, not that it ought to be. So I believe that's where the whole philosophy of the curveball is. Like, things can be thrown at you, like how you take it, how you accept it,
Yes,
how ready
totally.
you are, right? For
Totally.
the process. It makes you life ready. And the curveball can be thrown at a CEO. Is he ready?
Absolutely.
Do we have the plan? So Colby's book, The Curveball, has an answer for that.
I mean, people think like, it's one thing, people are like, oh, I've had a perfect upbringing. I've been through school with straight A's, law school, top percent in the class. And we get to real life, practice. And we realize that, oh my God, only right now I'm being hit with a challenge. But we've all had challenges we've had to deal with throughout our journey. And that's what makes it unique, and that's what makes it special. And it's about how you respond to it that determines your outcome and how you flourish and where you flourish in your respective career path. So, I'd like to share that we can't count ourselves out at the first inning. We have to play all 9 innings in the game. And, this is the same analogy in baseball, same analogy in cricket. But we have to stay through the process and keep being committed. And I know you'll get there.
And I think your book inspired everyone to be themselves throughout the process.
Yes.
Because we keep lingering in the process, but are we ourselves throughout the process? That's the key. Are we rediscovering ourselves, reshaping as the life is shaping us? Are we reshaping ourselves in the process or not?
Yeah, absolutely. So many people right now, there was a bar exam sitting. They're like, oh, I'm not checking LinkedIn because I don't want to feel bad. I don't want to do anything like that. But I'm just like, if that's your true thought, then fine. But if it's your fake thought, or if it's a thought based on what someone else is doing, then we need to check those kinds of behaviors.
Right. So if I am saying I'm committed, I'm taking time off from social media because I need undivided attention.
Yeah.
But if I'm scared, then I need not to be.
Yes. Yes.
That's wonderful. And I think at this level, we need to also check our, do I need undivided attention? Is my attention so easily, distracted by what everybody else is doing? If my attention is so easily distracted by what everybody else is doing in the process and in the meanwhile, then I think I need to recheck myself.
Yes, absolutely. One thing we can implement, and we lose so often, we lose this inside of everything in life and where we're going, is what is our ritualization looking like right now? How do you approach rituals? Because as the going gets tough, the tough return to rituals. And that's, I share at page 67 in the book. But what do your rituals look like? And I don't mean that and just sitting around singing Kumbaya and all that stuff, but what are some actual rituals you can take? So I was doing a lawyer's talk, because the book's accredited with the LSO, and it was, what's the difference between a ritual and a habit? Well, a habit, it gets you from point A to point B. But a ritual is a deeply patterned way of being that unlocks a higher performance self. So as we get into October, and as the next bar exam sitting comes in November, and if we get to the next NCA exam, I'd like you to check in, what is your rituals? They can be the simple thing as, if you're socially action-minded, if you want to pursue social justice law, if you want to pursue environmental law, set up a Facebook group. That is a cheap, relatively painless way to connect with people and share topics that you're deeply passionate about, that will help not only yourself in your chosen vocation, but will actually help make a difference if you link that with a donation campaign or anything like that. The second thing you can do is you can have some quiet dinners at home. You can make sure to hug your parents deeply before you head out the door. If we look at how the native Indians, and sorry, not natives, the indigenous folks approach the ritualizations, we see it when they erect teepees. They have community gatherings that they all feel better and the mood uplifts. There's a reason why.
That's very true.
Yeah, there's a reason why the professional, like Michael Jordan, for example, wore the wrist guard on one particular hand. He must have had that inculcated as he was coming up. So as we conclude that on lesson 3 from the book, that's an important actionable step I invite you to take. How can you best develop a set of rituals that will aid you not only in this licensing process and the NCA process, but as your chosen career as a lawyer?
Really nice. No, I really like that, what you're putting up. Thank you very much. I remember my own bar exam process. The one thing I learned from that, because I wrote when I was writing the bar exam, I was back home in India. I was not having any clue about Canada. I've never been to Canada. For anything about Canada was alien to me, and internet wasn't that great at that moment. So things were not so obvious. The connection was not there. It was very isolating process. So I learned that it is also a very spiritual process. So as far as I was fighting with the process, I didn't succeed that much. But when I started seeing the process as a spiritual process, being connecting to myself and driving through and raise my own bar to pass the bar exam. And I wish I had your book at that time, so that, this gives you a guide map. It gives you, I would say, a different way to navigate on the legal landscape, because it's a demanding career. It's a demanding process. So I consider your book to bringing the process of life and law more closely to the spirituality of spirituality of human journey.
Totally.
And it makes it more human experience, more versatile, and learning about everything in life and unlearning everything about life is also important. I really like the way you give importance to rituals, and of course, abandoning certain things and being your authentic self is also, a great lesson to take from there.
That's the most important thing. If we learn it before we begin the process, it's better than if we're halfway through or for a 2-year or a 3-year call. And then we have to be like, oh, let's change what we're doing. But if you knew what you're doing before you do it, you have a much better chance of success when you actually get to that standpoint. The other thing I'd like to share is lesson number 4, which is, the importance of mentorship. And when sometimes we lose sight of what matters the most when we need it the most. And we need people. We want to dispel of this like ego, dispel of he's a senior partner or they're a senior associate. And who am I as a summer student or an articling student or an NCA student? And, I was an NCA candidate. I was an NCA student. Finding the job was difficult. But if we can embrace those many steps of adversity, if we can really look at that as a bridge to get to where we want to go, we are going to get there eventually. So it's really reaching out to others for help and guidance and advice, and knowing that, people just say something, but that's their opinion though. It does not matter how that opinion shapes our day-to-day lives, and we shouldn't construct our own professional or personal life based on that archetype.
Can you elaborate it a little bit? But really, I enjoyed. I'm like, oh my God, it ends. So let's bring more wisdom from God.
I mean, so we sometimes lose sight of what matters the most when we need it the most. And, so many people are like, oh, I'm going to be, a corporate lawyer, without really talking to a corporate lawyer, without seeing what is the day-to-day life in that profession, in that field. Have they run a business? Have they actually had stuff like that would aid them in becoming a truly successful corporate lawyer? So that is one thing we want to kind of be mindful of, where we're getting the advice from, who is giving the advice, and can we strip away that side of ourselves that says, no, I'm okay, I'm just going to go on my own path and I'm just going to end up here eventually. But it makes our process easier. It makes our process more efficient if we can get that knowledge from a starting point. I mean, my journey. So I went to law school because I love the law from an intellectual side, but my dad was a lawyer and he still is a lawyer because he's licensed. But his journey and what he shared about how to approach it, to go to law school, encouraged me to go to law school. But it was only when I found myself working in those environments that I'm like, hold on a second, and then I saw it for what it was. But I want to encourage you, take time and actively engage in mentorship. Take time and actively engage in, whether it's the University of Leicester that you might come from that has a Canadian law contingent, whether it's social groups, whether it's anything like that. Please do take advantage of that. It's going to help you in your career.
No, that's a very good way of putting up, because I've been a mentor from last 8 years in different settings. I mentor women lawyers through Women Lawyer Association and Canadian Women Association. So at time, all it takes is just to say, hey, you know what, I'm a member of this group, or this, I can do that. Can you guide me on this? I receive randomly hundreds of messages through Instagram and Facebook. I'm so happy to see such wise individuals. Recently, one student started mentoring with me. He's grade 12 student. And he wants to be a lawyer. And he found me. He said, will you be my mentor through this organization? I found you as a mentor. So I was learning how smart they are, how much they. I was so excited to have a grade 12 student as my mentee, and I'm so excited for his career and having the wise conversations.
Yeah, that's great at 12. Wow.
Yeah, this is really nice how young people in today's world are getting inspired, and they are learning the value of mentorship.
Totally.
Yes, in law, and law is a very kind field. There are many people, because most of us have struggled in the process, so we are always open to talk about our experiences and advising on the little things, because a little thing may seem a very big thing from the person's perspective who is in a situation.
And now I'm just thinking about it. It's embracing the commonalities and the strengths of the NCA candidates, especially because we all speak the same language. We're all advocates working in the public interest, not within the scope of the retainer only. But we
Right.
have
I really
commonalities.
like the way you put it. I'm going to use it in my professional responsibility lessons for the November.
But we have commonalities between other people who are not NCA candidates. It's finding bridges and not barriers to connect and talk with other people. Just
Right.
because they've gone domestically to Osgood or to U of T does not mean they cannot share something with you who's come from India, UK, wherever you may have come from.
Right.
As Barack Obama said, we start with hope. We start with hope of entering the Canadian, Ontario, or Canadian licensing process. That is where hope begins. We need to now take it out and branch it forward as a living tree, to use that quote.
Yes, for the person's case, yes.
Yes.
You know what? I went to Calgary and took my picture with the famous five and their statue in the downtown Calgary. If you're ever in Calgary in the downtown, there is a statue there, and you can, all bronze, all five women, and there is a paper with they're holding and says women or persons.
Amazing.
And the same statue is at Legislative Building of Manitoba.
Oh, no way. Wow.
So I took picture with both
That's
of these.
amazing.
There's one more, and I need to travel.
I'll check that out next time I'm there.
Yeah, no, you should. Like, it's so exciting to see that. It gives you goosebumps to, standing. You feel like there's so much energy in those at those places.
No, it was groundbreaking what they did. Barriers.
No, they started with hope. If we see that.
Yeah.
Those five women started with hope. They started with hope for equality, and they succeeded.
Absolutely.
And you always find like-minded people in the process, and they are willing to help you in your success story.
It just takes courage.
It takes courage. And when I came to Canada to write my exams in 2012 for the first time, and I came up with my family friends, and I was staying with my family friends, and they told me about the speech of the Governor General about diplomacy of knowledge. Mm-hmm. You should read it. It's on internet. Just Governor General of Canada, Diplomacy of Knowledge. He says, this is what makes us Canadian. Yeah. I believe that in law, diplomacy of knowledge is a primary concern for everybody. So I think we have majority of lawyers who are ready to share their diplomacy of knowledge with everyone. We are diplomatic country with diplomacy of knowledge.
For sure.
And you're bringing so much wisdom and guidance for everyone.
Thank you.
Over here.
Thank you.
We would like to learn a little bit more from you. How would you like to, wind up our conversation with giving message to everyone?
I like to share, in spite of the lives that you're leading as lawyers, as licensees, as NCA students, find ways to chase impact as well. If there's one thing I'd like to leave you with, chase impact. Do extra pro bono work. Try to do something else for someone else, whoever they may be, whatever path they're leading right now. Because that is going to give you that sense of deep satisfaction that you might not get elsewhere. So chase impact, but just start with hope in your journey. Wherever you are, wherever you've come from, don't let that cloud your judgment. Don't let that cloud people's perception of you. You can do this, and I wish you all the very best as you embark on your journeys and become amazing advocates. All the very best.
Yes, and I would like you to encourage everybody around there. So now NCA exams are online. The students who are writing, say, sitting in South Africa, in England, say, sitting in Pakistan, they're sitting in India, they're in China, so they're in France, Russia. I get students from all over the world. So they have that kind of, a sense of fear, sense of anxiety about Canada and about the legal landscape over here and life in Canada as such. So I would like you to, give them a message of encouragement to make this process, because they haven't been here yet. So they kind of, in the process, they can use, of course, they can use your book to learn and deal with the curveball of coming to Canada. But
Yeah.
I would also like to have your message for them of inclusiveness and diversity of our country.
We need you. We need your voices. We need your special talents. You know, much of Canadian law is from primarily the UK. So we have those common bonds. You know, this is the age of the curveball. This is the age of pandemic. Common bonds are really what's going to get us out of this and making a better world going forward. So I'd like to share with you that I invite you to come here. It's a great country, and we all need your special talents that can aid to the law.
Thank you very much. That's really nice. Thank you very much for coming over here virtually on our platform and sharing your time. And it's always a pleasure talking to you, Colby.
Always a pleasure too. Cool. Can I share where people can get the book and follow me?
Of course.
Yeah. So if you're interested
One second, let me ask you a question. So we have been discussing about your book and everything. So is it available through e-platforms? Is it somebody needs to buy it? How can our global audience get your book?
So good thing Amazon is available worldwide. You can find it all across Amazon, in India, Mexico, United Kingdom, Italy, etc. That's an ebook, paperback, and audiobook. You can connect with me on social media. Instagram is Colby Sharma Official. Facebook is the Curveball 426. And I'm also available to chat and connect on LinkedIn, Colby Sharma. You can sign up for my mailing list, which includes my guide to ego destruction. If you like this discussion on ego, I suggest you check it out at my website, www.colbysharma.com. I'm also available for private speeches to law firms, to organizations, to individuals. So shoot me an email and we can take it forward from there. That's pretty much, that's it. I like to say it's been a true pleasure to connect with you, and all the very best, and hope to get another chance soon. But Bill, this has been a tremendous opportunity.
No, it's my pleasure, Colby. I was meaning to do this ever since I heard about your book. For me, you were simply an NCA student, so humble, so kind, so energetic, so positive, who would shoot me a message like, hey, Gold, and then what is the answer? Like, what do you think about this? I really love the way you put things. You don't seek a question as a question.
Yeah.
You never, walked through a question and you were like, oh, what is your opinion on this? I was like, this is what I feel about this. And I really like the way you authentically, connect yourself with everybody else and with the problem itself.
Yes.
The way you looked at the problem, that's what, made me wonder like, oh my God, this is such a smart lawyer, right? So I'm so excited for your journey, and I wish you good luck.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
We are not putting the licensing process on hold. We'll promote this book, and we want it. It's not about the promoting of the book. It's about making sure that people get the wisdom you have learned through the process that you share.
Totally. Maybe next time we can do something like in person if I'm ever in like DC.
Of course, that would be wonderful. Yes.
Totally.
And if I come in Toronto, we can do a get together with students 100%. And everything.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yes. So, you are joining my bar classes as well. I'm not leaving you without working for barrister and solicitor exam. Yeah. It's it's a process of its own. I'm really excited the way you are sharing your journey.
Oh no. I mean, if one person gets something from the curveball and what I've shared, I'm a happy guy.
Yes. I'm going to stop recording now.